Let me know if you hate it. The other ones are good too, but I feel like that one is like a good starter if you don't drink too. It's a good remedy.
Liz was asking me, and
And I feel like
Parker
four cups of that is like 1 cup of coffee.
either Parker's life.
So it's not a whole lot, but just enough where
This guy was like,
so you don't feel like, and it's a diuretic, so it'll help you lose weight. So speed your metabolism. It's good for you.
Check. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff John Roberts, the finance editor at Fortune. It's thrilled to see you all here on the third day. Nice full room. We're going to have a very lively discussion on, what's this called again? The official title is How to Hire During an AI Arms Race. Quick housekeeping note. As you know, this is going to be on the record, so whatever you say might show up in somewhere on social media or in media. And I will toss it to the room for questions about halfway through the program. But first off, we've got some experts here to share the story of how AI and hiring is happening at their companies. So can I ask the panelists all to introduce themselves quickly, their name, their company, and just tell us, how are you using AI right now? Or I guess more specifically, what task has AI solved for you, and the most critical one right now? Umesh, do you want to begin?
Yeah, very nice to be here, Jeff, and everyone at Fortune. Thank you for having me. Umesh Sachdev, founder and CEO of Uniphore. We are a business AI company. We sell data and AI stacks to some of the biggest businesses in the world, over 2,000 of them. And our clients are using AI in all sorts of different ways. In front office, automating tasks in customer support or marketing. Or now we're beginning to see even back office tasks like finance and FP&A and procurement. So AI and agentic AI in particular has started to penetrate the world of business in a big way, and feels like we're just at the beginning of that S-curve that's about to go up.
Hi everyone, I'm Rukmini. I'm the SVP of Engineering at PagerDuty. Something personal I'll share. I'm super momming with AI right now. I have 12-year-old twin boys, and I have all kinds of agentic systems scanning golf schedules in my email and auto-creating meetings. So outside of that, PagerDuty is a leading operations platform, and I think we're in a really interesting space on when disruptions happen in organizations, how do we leverage AI to make sure we can get up and running really quickly.
My name is Zach Mabry. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at DraftKings. We are, in my opinion, America's best sportsbook. And we build iGaming solutions, sportsbook, fantasy products, lottery, and many other things that are in the digital entertainment and sports space. We're using AI all over the company. So this is not just an engineering or data science problem. We're making it everyone's focus. So the objective for me is to enable everyone to be a builder, and how that's manifesting for us in the products is both through user-facing things like personalization and search. It's been very powerful. But honestly, most of our big developments have been in our back of office, whether that's for customer experience, operations and tooling, monitoring, really across all functions. So excited for the discussion today, and thanks to Fortune for having all of us.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Pham, the Vice President of AI at Workday. I'll share a personal and a professional one. The personal one is, I wrote a piece a few years ago that was, forget the Turing test. If AI can solve the summer camp problem, I'll be impressed, which is signing up for summer camp. And it hasn't, because it's so complicated, which we might get to in a little bit. But it can take schedules in weird formats in complicated boxes and actually generate an ICS file and makes all the parents' lives so much easier. So I think the space of taking documents wherever they exist in weird spaces and putting that into a space that's useful, like a calendar, is really interesting. And so I think at work I've done stuff like that. But I think the one that excites me the most is the ability to basically take skills and backgrounds from people and surface jobs that we might be interested in that we've never thought of before, based on context and background beyond the resume. So that's the AI work stuff that I both use and I'm excited about.
That's great. So hi everyone, Wendy Whitmore. I'm the Chief Security Intelligence Officer at Palo Alto Networks. Like Kathy, I have unsuccessfully used AI to solve the summer camp problem. It's not quite there yet, but I would love any useful tips for sure. What we're doing though at Palo Alto Networks is certainly using AI in so much of our product suite to accelerate, make them faster, but my teams are really using it to solve cybercrime faster and to keep our clients out of the news.
Yeah, if you solve the summer camp thing, let me know, because I want to tell my wife. I'm not sure what division to labor at home. For some reason, women always seem to get stuck with summer camps.
Yeah.
I mean, so
I can have a whole session on that. Yeah.
I think it would be a big draw.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking hiring, and I guess what is the single hardest position to fill right now in companies of your size in the field of AI? Let's go to you, Kathy.
Okay. I would say one of the hardest roles that just pops in my mind is the machine learning engineer role. I have two answers. One is the machine learning engineer role because I think it's changed on what the machine learning engineer is. Is it like the math major with some data scientist and statistical background? Is it the software engineer and recognizing that a software engineer, given like a little bit of tweaking, can easily become a machine learning engineer? And I think in the absence, and so then it requires a strong partnership with your talent team and your engineering team to figure out the roles. So I think part of it is it's not that the role, like skills don't exist necessarily, it's the figuring out how to resurface these different skills people have in these other roles into a machine learning engineering role. So I think that's one. The other one is probably just the leadership teams that run product for AI ML because it requires an understanding of the problem you're going to solve with the new technology that's ever changing. And so product managers or product leaders who can ship products just need to upskill a lot. And so you're trying to hire for the people product leader while they're still trying to learn. And so I think the job description is evolving and the people skills are evolving, and it just gets really complicated.
I think to add to that, I'd focus on like what skill is hardest to hire for. We see the same trends across very similar roles, and that's challenging too. But I think the thing that I'm seeing is when everyone needs to start to think more AI first or AI fluent, one of the biggest skill gaps that I see emerging very quickly is what I would call like systems thinking or systems design. And that's something that we strongly test for engineering roles, especially the more senior those roles get, that may be all you do all day long. But for maybe let's say like a CRM or marketing associate who's trying to make their life more agentic to do some pro code, low code, maybe even no code solution, what their work looks like, they're part of a process, and so they're in a system, but it's very different than stepping back, looking across the environment and thinking about, is there a better way to do this? You know, engineers think about, how do I build a better mousetrap? That's because they're engineers. The world we're going to, everyone's going to need to think that way. And I think that's something we're starting to inject more and more into our hiring process across all roles, because it hasn't been something that's been important to test for certain roles in the past.
So whose job is it, though, to do that, to tell the other people in the organization, hey, this is what we're doing here, and here's how you should use it? Because my experience, a lot of very technical people aren't great communicators. So does that fall to the ML? Not everyone. Except for you, Kathy. But no. But does that fall to the head of product or to the, you know? No, but whose job?
Critique of my last response, but I'll try not to take it personally.
Yeah. No, but whose job is it primarily to kind of spread it through the system and communicate what we're doing?
I can tell you what we're doing at DraftKings. So we've put together a cross-functional, single-threaded leadership team to help with that, because we need. I would respectfully disagree. I think a lot of our engineers are fantastic communicators, but we can agree to disagree. But I think what we've found is that we need that alignment across all the functions, and we need very senior people engaged, learning, upskilling themselves so that then they can go and evangelize. And so that's sort of the approach we've taken, where we have a marketing leader who now has new rituals that they're doing weekly, where they're meeting with other leaders across the company that maybe their work wouldn't have brought them together previously, but now it's critical because we have to pass this knowledge. And I would say too, for just one more point, for the engineers, I think this is a great opportunity for maybe people who haven't had to communicate in that way or haven't had to step outside of their area and learn about other parts of the business. Fantastic opportunity to get more context in other functions.
I have a slightly different, I know we're all looking for that mythical machine learning engineer in the Silicon Valley right now. I think the opportunity and the way I'm thinking about it is, what a fantastic time to hire AI natives. These kids who are just now graduating from schools, who look at the world completely differently than anyone who's actually been in the workforce 5 to 10 years, because all our assumptions, they're out of the window, right? Like every day we wake up, the ground's shifting, there's new news, new technologies, and I see all these like fresh graduates who have a different perspective on using like a lovable and building a prototype that gets to work. And I think like it's a wonderful opportunity for us as leaders to actually infuse AI native thinking into the organization. And it's kind of the opposite of like, I understand the need for systems engineers. I think that's really critical. But I would flip it and say, what if you infuse the organization? This is what we are doing at PagerDuty, where we're going to go to the universities and hire AI natives and infuse the rest of the organization with fresh thinking and challenging all current assumptions.
I'd love to just expand on that, because you both just made me think of this as you're talking. So in addition to like the systems thinking, the machine learning as product leaders, even just rethinking who is an AI builder now and turning that around, because I think historically we're like looking for the unicorn machine learning engineer. And you're like, actually, some of the best marketing folks on our teams can help build our products in the core product, given their knowledge and domain expertise. Some of the doctors I know are building new products, and how that really reshapes the people we hire in our companies, like rethinking who gets to be a builder.
That's interesting. Someone who can infuse the culture of the company, and I suppose going young will help that too. Wendy and Umesh, let's go back to the original question though. The most critical or most difficult single hire you've encountered on the AI front.
So I'm going to give an answer maybe a little contrarian in that it's not just specific to AI. So just to give a little bit of context, the types of work that my teams do is investigate breaches. We have intelligence analysts and researchers who are piecing data together on the back end. And so for us, the most difficult person to hire are these engagement managers. They're the people who are the front lines. They're communicating directly with the clients. They have to be highly technical, but they have to be able to deal with the CEO whose job is now under attack because the business is under attack. They've got to be able to communicate very well with a lawyer and general counsel, and oftentimes a chief operating officer. And so while I agree that I think technical people are becoming better communicators, I'd love to hear that energy here. I do think that's a challenge that we've struggled with time and again. I think AI is actually helping with this. So not only is it certainly helping on all the technical back end of how we do our workflow, getting the mundane tasks like a daily status report and update. Like we can use AI obviously to generate so much more of that, but now it can help you communicate. Like, hey, okay, let me give prompts that are going to say, I've got this challenging situation. Here's the background. I've got a CEO who doesn't get along with the CISO in this case, and I've got these very difficult personalities to navigate, and I need to communicate these 10 things, and I'm going to have 10 minutes, right, in these fast, rapid update situations. Now they can be a lot more sensitive to some of the dynamics that are going on and be more effective of a communicator, and I think we've really seen improvement that way.
So, I have a perspective of an AI company. We sell AI to other businesses. And I think we preach to our customers that AI is going to change everything in your business. And, you're going to be rewired grounds up. And if we take that at face value, like it may not happen tomorrow, but okay, that's the journey we're on, then there's a huge premium on people who are system thinkers. People who can think across the board, not just what's happening in my world today. And there's a huge premium, and obviously not too many of them exist. And at my company, I try to hold myself accountable of trying to say, am I being a system thinker at my own company? I'm preaching this to my customers. And I would say every single role, if I play the role of a system thinker, just starts to become super hard right now. Because in a software company, what is a CRO anymore? What is revenue operations? What is customer success in the AI world? We went from a company that used to ship new product versions twice a year to once a quarter to every Friday. What's the role of product management anymore? By the time they write a PRD, our engineers are churning out new features and code. And by the way, it's not just us, but our competition is, if you're an LLM company, the minute you put out a great new product, a week later, your competitor puts out a slightly better product. And so the whole concept of how companies are wired, so I deeply think about who should be a CHR of the future. What skills should they have? And I go, oh shit, I don't know anyone on my LinkedIn who will match that today. The definition of revenue leaders, product leaders, it's all appending. And the sooner we all start to embrace that, the sooner we'll start to get to a better place. Because the technology is at friction with our org structures of today. These org structures and titles were designed when technology was a certain way. Now we know these are action-oriented, decision-making machines helping us do our job. Okay, so then our job should change. And I don't think there's a system thinking happening yet across the board on rewiring titles.
Yeah. I think, pardon me, I think you guys made clear when you're hiring someone like this, you need someone who's a systemic thinker, gets the big picture, can infuse it across the company. At the same time, though, there's presumably specific skills that would show up as like bullet points on a wanted ad. And I'm below my lack of technical knowledge here, but it seems, a generation ago it would be sort of like, I suppose, programming languages. Like, I want someone who can, write Java or C++. In the world of LLMs, is it something similar to that, or is it like, how similar are the different LLMs, as akin to like programming languages? Forgive me, obviously this isn't my field, but I'm curious. Like, would you simply put nose LLMs, or would you has like nose Claude, nose Anthropic, or how does that work?
I can take a lead. Look, again, going back to system thinkers, the way these LLMs work, this is not a programming language. This is a whole architecture. The way it ingests data, what do you do with the data, how do you pre-process some data before you give it to the LLM. They all can have dramatically different outputs to what the model ends up doing. And so people who understand that whole architecture, that system thinker, is truly important. Now, it's very rare to have that person who knows the architecture. That's the machine learning talent that we're all saying in itself is scarce. But now try to marry this talent with somebody who understands a business function. It blows your mind. How will this ever work? Because the people running the business function are still resisting this. And they're like, oh, that's a cool experiment. That lovable code, great for a POC, will never scale. Guess what? It will.
Yes.
And so when you marry the knowledge of business functions to this architecture of RAG and LLM and data, and therefore, how do I not make the model hallucinate, but make it do like something very precise? When you marry those skill sets, that's when magic starts to happen.
I'll add with, you have me thinking about the topic of the roles changing. So you take like any software engineering role, machine learning engineering role, and for as long as I can remember, I think for, let's say software engineering roles, Java, C++, but then went to like Ruby for a while, and then so it's pretty common to update our job descriptions just based on even what like proprietary stack you might have in-house. And so I see that happening just but for standard roles where you're hiring hundreds, maybe thousands of engineers. You have folks adding, whether some companies need prompt engineers, some people need folks who understand statistical analyses, others. For product managers, we look for folks who can do products in non-deterministic systems, meaning that you have to be able to test your product knowing that the result is in itself going to change, and product managers aren't normally change that way. So I think one part is tweaking the current job descriptions because it changes the nature of the role. The other part for me that I think a lot about is, for as long as we've been hiring people, a lot of people have written about this, we want to hire people who have the curiosity and adaptability to change.
Yes. Because
I don't know, like our whole entire tech stack today might be Java. Next year it might be Ruby, which has like been things that have happened over time. Same thing with AI, ML. So I think hiring for the curiosity, the adaptability. Yesterday, Shabani from Salesforce talked about the adaptability quotient, which I love, and I'll cite her and repeat that forever. But continuing to have that component of hiring, of yes, prove that you can build a system in whatever language you happen to know today. My first language was Scheme. You've probably never heard of it because Georgia Tech believed that we're going to teach you how to learn how to code. That's why you would pick such a ridiculous language. But then now they're like, here's this new thing. So a big thing for all of us is figuring out how to do our job descriptions, or maybe hiring will change completely, or you don't have job descriptions where you bring that curiosity and adaptability in.
I think those are evergreen skills like curiosity, growth mindset. And I think the one thing that is a true differentiator right now is willingness to move at the speed of light. I think that's something, engineers don't like change. We can all agree, right? Like all the engineering teams we've led. That's, I think, the cultural shift that I feel like we have, as engineering leaders specifically, have to lead through, because we typically imagine how much time it took for a Java shop to move to a Ruby shop, and not the technology stack, but getting people on board was always the hardest thing. And what was relevant last year is no longer relevant today. It won't be relevant next month. So I think it's that willingness to adapt and move quickly is going to be like the true differentiator. So in our hiring, we are now screening for like, let's build something on the fly together. Now let's toss it out and let's try some, are you willing to throw away something that's not working in spirit of something new that might come along next month? That's what we're looking for.
You build something in your interview process.
Yes.
Together.
Yes.
That's awesome.
We're actually doing kind of trying to grab onto these same sort of focus areas where the skills become more meta. It becomes about your adaptability or your willingness to change, your ability to speak about the product and business side of what you're working on as much as the technical details. And so on the coding side, maybe 10 years ago, it was come in and solve a challenge and do it under the gun. And we were testing for being able to do that quickly under pressure, maybe with limited documentation. And it was almost like a test of how well you've studied the book. And now we've kind of culturally flipped that entirely on its head when we're interviewing. So whatever AI tool you want, we'll give it to you. You can either bring it or we'll give it to you. We don't really care whether the tool writes 99% of the code or the candidate writes 99% of the code, because what the future looks like is these agents and humans working together to solve these problems at greater magnitude, at greater speed. And it's really breaking the physics of this. Like you mentioned, we don't have time to write these detailed tech plans because we can already ship before we write the plan at a reasonably equal level of quality. And the physics of, you read it in any book, the cost, the time, and the quality, like the time portion of this is dramatically changing. And if you're willing to pay for the tokens, which are getting cheaper and cheaper, the cost part of this physics equation is changing. And it really flips on its head, these processes. I actually wonder, we were strong, agile practitioners, and I already see that disintegrating. It's like, well, why would we do a ticket refinement session when the bot can just kind of understand the intent, look at our backlog, and just automatically update the details. Oh, we forgot to put a test plan on this. That doesn't matter anymore. In the past, you get to the end and you go, oh no, we missed these 5 different pieces of business logic. That's not a thing anymore, because the agents that we are building can understand the intent and can spit that out in line. And so it just turns on its head this whole equation of like, I want people who are more willing to experiment, want to run quickly and try something, because the cost is so much lower. It's sort of like, why not? And going back to your question about skills and how do we find that talent, interviewing for that, I think we have focused more on what we call our technical deep dive, which is about the technical details, but it's really about the how around it. Like, why were you trying to solve this? What were the challenges? Did you find that the prompt engineering really mattered, or it was good enough, whether it was you had a bad prompt or a good prompt? And really interrogating our candidates to understand, do they really get what they built? What they've built, do they really understand what it means in the bigger picture of the systems, and making sure they're not held to what they've built, so that they can adapt for when this inevitably changes, not even 6 months from now,
Think of another
tomorrow.
skill, actually, when this builds on what you were saying about there's the engineers, but there's others. I think back to the ChatGPT moment when it launched. The GPT technology had existed inside a very large company with a ton of resources, Google, for a very long time. At least since like 2017, when GPT technology just came out. And there are lots of things that are different that made ChatGPT successful, but it's the user interface layer with like the typing and like that feeling you get. And all of a sudden people are like, oh, this organization that like took the technology that this large behemoth built with a ton of resources, all the best builders in the world, figured out the experience layer, where the entire world was like, oh, now I understand what LLMs and AI are. They might not even actually know it, but they know I can put stuff in my language and get stuff back pretty quickly. So that the skill of like experience, understanding how humans operate in the world, knowing that like that cute, fun, like typey thing that makes people want to engage, those things, all these startups are spinning up now. When you only hire machine learning engineers, you're not going to get to that. So that experience layer, the layer of like understanding how people operate in the world, all the companies are going to have to hire for, whether or not they want to at some point.
As this physics changes too, I think to this point, people know what they know and they're comfortable with that, and that's okay. It's a human nature aspect to that. But I'm finding more and more with teams, I can very quickly spot out who's more AI forward or AI fluent based on their instinct after a short question. small business problem. So the machine learning engineer will go, oh, that sounds really cool. Let me start to train up a contextual bandit, or maybe I need a neural network, or oh no, like we're gonna need convolution and all sorts of other stuff. And they like very quickly it becomes a science experiment. And for brain surgery, that's fine. It's you know, you want to really go after it. But I find that the more AI forward folks, even some of our engineers who are more AI forward, their first instinct is, I bet you I can get like 80 or 90% of this out of the box, and that may be more than what the business expected to solve. And I think that's the click that we're seeing here with their more fluent folks, is they're going back to that system thinking, and they're going like, well, it's like Lego blocks. So I have this piece, I have that piece. I think I can get most of the way there, which is like, I think, a really different view from what we were seeing just a few years ago, which is like, oh, we're going to need the whiteboard. We're going to need the tech plan team. We'll see you in a couple of sprints, and you'll have this monster that you'll have to build. Which sometimes you need to build a monster, but I think this is really changing the game. I'm seeing with the team.
Zach, I think that's really insightful what you're saying about the interview process and how to find out the person can do what they say they can do. You know, Wendy, I want to bring you in on this when you're hiring, that interview thing too, because it does seem harder. In the past, you can just like, go do this test. Can you code that? But now it seems a lot more holistic and big. So that means you better design your interview process correctly. So in your case, Wendy, what is that interview journey look like, or the hiring journey look like?
Well, I think everyone here has done a great job of talking about the how and right in terms of the actual skills. And you talked about curiosity and adaptability. I think to me, then that starts getting into the why. And I think as a hiring manager, and a leader of a team, that's equally as important, if not more. So, you know, what am I talking about? It's mission alignment. Like, why is this person here? Yes, I want them to be curious. I want them to be deeply technical. In our field, they're going to need to communicate very well verbally. They're going to need to operate under pressure. But it's a challenging hiring market out there, right? It's challenging to retain great people because your competitors are right there offering them, more money out of the gate, maybe more stock options. And you see this playing out in the AI space. With Meta trying to attack OpenAI talent for $100 million signing bonuses. And why are some of those people turning them down? It's because they feel much more mission alignment with the role that they're in and the work that they're doing at OpenAI, for example, than maybe what they're doing at another organization. And so for us, that's always been super critical. And I think when you look at people who want to come in and solve problems, really look at taking innovation to cybercrime and how can we build better solutions. Those are the kind of people we want on our team, and those are the kind of people that you're going to be able to successfully retain and do great work with.
I'd take a controversial view on this. We're all talking about that very scarce AI talent. Let's go technical talent for a second. If any of us are at the interview process, we've probably lost that game already, because that talent pool is so tiny right now. There's a reason we call it the talent wars, and it's in news almost every week, and we are seeing all forms of acqui-hires by these large companies that they're leaving the company behind but taking the founder away for billions of dollars and this and that. We have to understand what's the root cause of that. The root cause is those system thinkers who understand how to apply these models and these architectures into business. That's a very tiny talent pool. And a large part of it is in Silicon Valley. Some of it is, spread around the world. And that talent pool, isn't looking for jobs and coming to interviews in our companies. Because, yes, there are OpenAIs of the world and Googles of the world and Meta, which are ready to attract that talent with everything they've got for a reason, because those CEOs and founders believe that this kind of talent will create the disproportionate value. But that's also the other opportunity. There are hundreds of these stillborn AI companies, as I call them, where some of these teams coming out of DeepMind, coming out of Google, coming out of OpenAI, became startups in the last couple of years, raised a lot of money, and we know not all of them will make it, because succeeding in a company isn't just about a great model or a LLM. It's about distribution, it's about go-to-market, it's about the whole structure. And those talent pools are becoming available. Those talent pools that in the first place didn't want to be in the large machine called Google or Meta or Microsoft. And so models of acquiring those companies, bringing those on at Uniphore. Last week, we acquired 2 AI companies, all Google DeepMind talent. I had to throw my acquisition playbook out of the window from time of meeting the founder to closing the acquisition, 3 weeks. And the founder said, you cannot talk to my team. You cannot meet. I was like, I'm acquiring people. Can I please meet them? He said, you meet them and they're gone. They'll call Google and they'll be gone. Because they don't know where they're getting attracted to, et cetera. So we had to craft a mission for them, just like Wendy's talking about, because this kind of talent is really mission-driven at this moment. And that mission is forking out in two directions for them. One is chasing superintelligence, the type of work that OpenAI and XAI and Anthropic are trying to do. And the other is this fit-for-purpose AI, writing code for engineers, business AI like what Uniphore does, solving the search problem that Perplexity is solving. And these AI engineers, these AI researchers, are right now moving in one of these two directions. And as companies, if we can show up with one of these two missions, that is the best shot we have at attracting this talent, because quite frankly, none of us here can compete with a Meta's stock option that's out there in the market right now.
I would choose my
think
company first.
compensation is going to get people in the door. I think that's what will happen. But I think mission and culture keep them there.
100%.
That's the differentiator. And you cannot, it's not an indefinite amount of time that a lot of these people, this small pool of people, are going to keep trading compensation for mission. So I think what we will see is attrition on the other side for whether it's a large organization that's attracted right now with compensation. If their missions don't align, I think we're on an 18-month, maybe even less now, who knows, again, previous rule books tossed out, I would say 18 months for good talent to attrit out. Maybe it's shorter now. We will see another wave of attrition. And I think this is where, I have this motto, always be hiring. Not when you have an open rec and not when you have an open spot. You have to always hire. So it's not a transaction in a moment of time. It's an ecosystem you're operating in. And I think the Silicon Valley, this manifests in many different ways I've seen over the last 20 years. You have to be connected to people and understand their true why. And then you can meet them where they are and move quickly. So,
Yeah, I covered Silicon Valley circa 2015. That was the era of the coder. It's sort of funny, we idealize these people, they almost become these sort of messiah people. And I saw on the campuses of Facebook and Google, treating these people as these, special exotic flowers. They got free, massages and laundry and ice cream shops and just on that. Then finally that came to an end, that coding thing. But is it the same sort of, it sounds like it's not the same hiring these precious LLM people. They're maybe more mission driven, they're fewer, and I'm sure they like money just like anyone else. But how does it compare to that era with this AI hiring era?
I would say we're in a very different era. This is not the beanbag massage table era.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
We do haircuts and nail salon.
There you go. There you go. This is truly, that scarce talent, that archetype is, again, I'm going to repeat myself, is super mission driven.
yes.
And I cannot underscore this enough. The sharper that as a founder CEO you can communicate your mission to them, that's the only tool you have to attract them. One of my peer CEOs, we were joking at a bar, what do you do? How do you compete with Meta? I said, emotion is all I have.
I love that.
I've been sitting here just thinking about just the talent pool and the massage shows. I was in all that. And I keep thinking about how, to your point, the people who make the news for these $300 million offers, the people who are seen as the Messiah unicorns, it goes back to who we've historically thought looks like a coder, who we've historically thought is the most brilliant person in the room. And candidly, look where that got us in tech.
Yes.
And same with this moment is we're seeing that repeated, right? It's these special unicorn coder, machine learning engineers who deserve the multi-million-dollar packages are of a certain type that get the funding, get the big offers. While we're also seeing studies are showing adoption of AI is really low. Right. And you're well, what do you think makes adoption of AI high? Oh, the people who might understand social work really well. Mm-hmm. The people who understand the complexities of a hospital system really well, so you can make AI and enterprise systems actually work. And I'm this is my call to action for all the types of people who have hiring capabilities to broaden the scope of who we think is the unicorn person to build AI systems, because that's the foundation models alone. We know this is it's a tool. Yes. It's not going to get us there, and we should put some of those multi-million-dollar crazy offers to those folks who historically just don't get those offers, but understand how they make the technology work. in these really complicated systems.
I want to pause there and bring in the room. Do we have mic runners? Or let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. And please keep your questions short and snappy, and please introduce yourself.
Was it something we said?
Thank you. Elena Kvochko.
I hope it was.
Elena Kvochko. I'm a founder of a company, TrustGuard AI. We are building AI platform to perform cybersecurity audits. And previously, I was Chief Trust Officer at SAP. So I really appreciate your advice and tips, on how to go deep with candidates during the interview process. I love the fact, let's build something on the fly. In my experience, when I posted a job on LinkedIn, within 2 or 3 days, I received over 1,000 profiles. And so, do you have a perspective on how do we even sort through that? I would love to just go deep with top 10 final candidates, but when there's 1,000 profiles, do you have any experience, or how do you even sort through them to find who is worth interviewing?
Use AI.
I mean, I'll share. I've been trying really hard not to I won't pitch, but I'll just share that one example. Is Athena Karp founded this company 10 years ago that was AI native, hired Score, and her approach of it is really interesting. So it's use AI, but also use AI responsibly, and it's a big topic right now. And her approach was, help us understand your hiring profile, and then we'll give you not a ranking, but a rating of the match to your profile, and then you can adjust it. Be like, oh, actually, I under-index for how much something like a city really mattered, because cities carry with them proxies and things like that. And you can adjust. But I think right now it's like hiring agents combating the agent, because it's all these people are using agents to get jobs. So I think part of it is using AI systems to go through, but pick the right one and do it responsibly.
The one thing we do at Uniphore, it's really hard to use AI to suss out curiosity from a CV. How do you suss out that attitude from somebody's LinkedIn or CV? And so I often think about that if that's what I'm solving for, at some point I want curious people, I want people who are going to be adaptable. Then I look at which companies are good training grounds, in my opinion. Yeah. For a given role, what companies do I respect who might have trained the talent? And I start to look for those patterns. For engineers is different, for salespeople is different, for finance people is different. I create that list, and I go really sharp on that list. So it's a great problem to have. You have 1,000 CVs. I would start to filter on companies that they've been through, which is a proxy to they've been trained in curiosity or process or adaptability, whatever your key criteria is. I look for the past patterns.
I think still referrals are still not old-fashioned at all. Yeah. I think a good referral goes a very, very long way. So I over-index on internal referrals, and someone who's worked. That's the best way to suss out curiosity and adaptability.
We do that similarly. That bumps your rank a lot in terms of if we have limited time and a huge pool, how do we prioritize? We still also do, it's becoming a little bit less common, but we still also do the GitHub deep dives. And I think going back to this, what I'll call it toil, even though sometimes it's fun to go on a deep dive, what toil can you automate with AI tools responsibly to speed up that process? Maybe before, with 1,000 resumes, let's say everyone had their portfolio linked, right? Whatever it is, a designer, here's their portfolio, a coder, here's their GitHub. You could look through them all. You could maybe look through the top couple, and maybe you've already kind of made up your mind before that. This is where the game changes in terms of what we can do with, depending on what systems and tools and support we have, to rapidly improve the rank of things, to dig deeper than we have previously, and maybe find that candidate that has the curiosity factor that we're looking for, or maybe the business alignment that we're looking for.
Very good question and good answers too. I do want to make sure we bring more people in, so please go ahead, sir.
Morning, Nicholas Stevens. I lead Zillow's AI teams. Would love to hear your perspective on location and how important it is to get all these people that you're retaining in the same office versus tap into the more national, global talent pool and go for distributed work.
And save money too by going abroad, presumably.
Okay, and since you said abroad, so I'm going to give you a two-part answer. So one, I think it goes actually right back to mission and point of impact. So a team of consultants, for example, who are solving cybercrime all over the world, like their mission impact isn't like a whiteboard, for example, or necessarily a back-end system. It's going out to the client sites and being able, to solve those crimes as quickly as possible. Now, a team of engineers and developers, their point of impact may be that, hey, we need to get all these people together so that they can solve develop code and solve these problems in the same room. And so I think that it really, we have to ask those kind of hard questions, and it's not one set answer. But you mentioned going abroad, and so I was going to mention this with your question, just more of a public service announcement for anyone who is not aware. Please look up, if you're not familiar with it, the North Korean hiring scams that are going on, and be familiar with that, because the more that we go to these virtual environments where we're not meeting the people in person, we're doing a lot of online type of interviews, ideally be making sure that as much as possible you can do those so where the applicant is on Zoom, on video. There's obviously ways that they can get around that too. We've released a lot of research on that. But to your point, having a referral, or even if it's someone that isn't a referral, actually going and verifying references of people that you know that these people claim to know is one simple kind of human step that you can take that's not a lot of time, that's going to prevent your organization from having to suffer that.
I also think like whether it's hybrid or flex or whatever you want to call it, if you can't share the intentionality behind it, you're not going to be able to attract the talent. I think that's the other thing, because people have a lot of options, especially these talent pools that are really very small right now. They do value flexibility, and I don't think they're going to say, I want to be in the office or don't want to be in the office. But if you can't explain your why behind your choice, I think you're going to lose the talent. That's the most important takeaway. And I think nothing beats good human contact. And I have a global team. Like, we have offices all over the world, but we intentionally get together to solve hard problems. You can shortcut things in 2 days, something that would have taken 2 months. So I think to save costs, it's a great question. I think you should have a distributed model. And also, most importantly, to something Kathy said, if you're not building with a worldview, your product is going to have one-dimensional thinking. If I build out of the Silicon Valley, my product's going to only serve Silicon Valley audiences and not a representative of the Fortune 100 companies that actually make up our customer portfolio. So I actually love and value having a team that's geographically distributed, because they bring unique ways of building product.
Are y'all distributed, Nicholas?
Another good question. Yeah, a quick hack on the North Korean thing too that is pervasive. Apparently, my reporter found the question you want to ask if you're at all worried is say something negative about Kim Jong-il. Say he's a moron, and apparently they will just totally freeze up. They won't. So it's a good shortcut. Let's go back here quickly.
Hi, good morning. Danilo Tomanovic, Synchronicity Angel Ventures. Very happy to be here. I'd like to point out that Fortune is part of the problem.
Sorry.
It's your reporting that people read, so that they have only a small window on Meta and Google and just what we call the usual suspects, the Mag 7. There are hundreds of incredible companies out there that if you do, and I'm very deep into it, so I focus on one thing, which is good people know good people. So you've worked with them, you've seen them, their behaviors, you love the way they communicate, and then invariably, birds of a feather flock together. In fact, we use that algorithmically for a lot of our lives. So one of the things that I'd like to ask each of you is, do you depend on like HR consultants? Do you do this on your own? Is it like phone a friend? I do see you're taking a mercenary approach in terms of poaching. I don't think this is healthy. We need to cultivate talent at every level, from the university level, give them experimental, then people who have had a lived experience, maybe 3 years or so, allow them to have more power and control. And then ultimately the CEO really has to be, I think, in a completely different mindset today. We're going through a culture shift. It's a historical moment and everyone is trying to figure it out. But I think, to your point, I love this. Instead of 2 months, maybe 2 days. And you get everyone together and it's remarkable. And in fact, that's actually the effect I've had being at this conference. So I'm grateful to all the organizers and the speakers.
Yeah, I think you touched on it implicitly too. I think developing your internal too. Presumably you've got a wealth of talent internally, and how do you kind of grow them?
I think the point you're making is super important. You know, when I was thinking about the topics that we might cover here, it's important to talk about the arms race, and we're all building teams. And I can't think of any time that wasn't, let's call it wartime or arms race time, right? We're always adding to our teams. We're always building. But I'm a social people kind of guy. And for me, the thing I worry a lot about is, well, we're focused over here and we're neglecting, the people we have, the teams we have. And at least currently what I'm seeing with candidates is the AI fluency isn't there. Sure, maybe if you talk to the 100 million unicorn coder, fine, they're on some other higher plane of existence. The vast majority of people are trying to figure it out. Some, maybe the younger you go, are even more fluent than others. But focusing on our talent, on upskilling and trying to build this ourselves, I think is important. The other part of your question on HR consultants. So we take a very internal kind of full stack, I'll call it, since I'm an engineer, approach to the problem. So we don't do a lot of that at all. We have our own internal talent team. The hiring managers are super involved, and really what we're looking for is like culture fit and talent. So one of the things that is always on people's mind is, do you want to hire someone who's going to stay around for a long time, or do you want to hire talent that might leave in a few years? My perspective is like, bring on the challenge. Like, I want the talent, and it's my job to make the best environment possible that they would never want to leave. They won't even pick up the phone, right, for a $100 million offer. Now, maybe they would leave for a $100 million offer, but my job is for them to not pick up the phone. And I think to do that, like, you really have to focus a lot internally on what you're building, on what the mission is. And I think I would disagree. I would say maybe not mercenary. I'd say maybe more acqui-hire with mission, right? You're selling emotion, which I think is great, and that's part of that. You're building that and going from there. But I think the point you're making is super critical to not take your eye off of that part of the equation. Because really, when my teams are building something, they want to add talent to the team. They go, oh, can I have a couple more heads? I'm like, that's not going to help you. Like, the team you have today is the one that's going to get you up the mountain in all likelihood, because what you're trying to solve is on a very short time scale. So
I love what you were saying, and then would love to add on to that, yes, to the global, like, thinking more broadly. I'm going to lean back on something I did 10 years ago, where we started something called the United States Digital Service inside the US government. And we brought on everyone from like one of the first 10 people at Amazon to a nonprofit designer, to like a designer at the big name companies, right? So I actually have a strong reaction to proxies of big name companies to good, because not everyone has access, but also might not necessarily mean good. Because the person who was making $25,000 a year at a nonprofit being a designer, because she was super scrappy and was incredible, was even better than this person that was like elevated as like best designer in the world. And so how do we broaden the circle of who we know? And I mean, you're doing that with so much of your work, I know. And because, I mean, good people know good people, and good people also don't know a lot of good people. I think about it a lot in our hiring. So we did a roadshow around the US, because in order to build technology services across like IRS, Small Business Administration, Veterans Affairs, you had to understand how people across the country operated. And there were lots of blind spots. I had people who tell me there's no engineering talent in Atlanta. I'm from Georgia. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But which is crazy, I know, but like these are people who've only hired in Portland, Seattle, and the Bay Area. And so, and you add to that, like when we're meeting with folks at Morehouse and Georgia State, they're like, when our engineers graduate, they find a lot more success in the consulting companies than they do inside a big tech company. So their best engineering talents end up in a consulting company. And so for me, it's when we hire for this next wave of AI talent, figure out where those skills go. It's a lot harder, I know, but we have to figure out where all these skills are across the world, so we can bring that into our companies, and maybe we can all figure it out together at the next brainstorm. I don't know. It's hard, I know, but we can't lean on what we know.
I want to bring the next question, but that was sort of directed at you, Umesh. Do you want to rebut at all? Do you think that was fair? Or
well, I'd say a lot of people misunderstand mission. Mission and culture are two sides of the same coin. There's no mission-driven organization without a strong culture, and which is why sometimes you can bring a unicorn candidate or a unicorn talent into the company, But if you start to give the vibe to your existing people that that person is more special, and now you all now start to report to them, you break your culture, and the mission breaks down. But on the contrary, if you're very intentional, it's all about intentionality. If you're intentional about a culture, we make sure when new people come in, either through acqui-hires or just interview processes, they fit the machine, not create different silos. And that's a good way of telling your existing talent, you're still important. We are still counting on you. We are augmenting our skills. And then comes the why. We spoke about the mission-driven intentionality. In our case, our mission is our 2,000 customers and delivering business outcomes, not selling just AI to them, delivering business outcomes to them. And when those customers are telling us they expect us to build something super fast, super deep, and we don't have that skill set in the company, we will go out and be mercenaries to fill that skill set. There is no question.
Yeah.
That's about being mission-driven. It's about intentionality.
Yeah. Maybe I'm showing my age, but we used to call this like, you want to work at a no-asshole company. So, but
Yeah.
She had another point, yet another point.
No, I was just going to say, like, end of the day, I think we need to really zoom out. The people on the ground are fearful, y'all.
Yeah.
Every engineer today is afraid if they're going to have a job tomorrow. Yeah. And while we all sit here and praise all these unicorns, we have people who are looking up to us to lead in this moment. And nobody's going to remember 10 years from now what AI tool we used in 2025. They're going to remember how we as leaders led our teams through this change. And how did we behave? And I think that's really important. And the Silicon Valley and all the ills that come with it, I want us to step back, and we're responsible to lead the humans first. And let's not forget that that's our mission as leaders.
Lead the humans first.
Patrick Bass, Sadie's AG. So we have hardware and digital products. I want to come back to the point on the university hire. I really like the point in regards to look at the culture fit, the personality, the curiosity point. So we're transitioning from being a traditional hardware company to adding digital products over the last 3 years. We bought a startup to bring in some of the, let's say, culture shift and environment to that, which has its own bag of tricks to come along with it. We did it in 6 weeks, so I'm very familiar with the scenario there and the mission. But I come back to the issue on regards to how do you find that next generation of talent? Because there's two sides. I'm sitting on the CEO side. I have a private equity backer, and of course shareholders want results now and demand instantly. And it's a bit of a turnaround story as well. To go out to the universities, unfortunately, you have some kids coming out of the university that have the inquisitive aspect of AI, and they've used it and they've played with it, but quite frankly, that they've not been trained on it at all. I'm really looking to find that university that has the MLL, has the analytics, at data science engineer that actually understands that you can't model your way through data to do predictions, and I'm not finding it. So that's the big struggle. I've actually had to go away from university hires and actually go even one layer below and do internships and drive the internships, because if I hire out of the university, I spend 3 years training them before I get anything out of them. Or the other idea is to poach, is to go out and poach. Now you can get the unicorn coming out of university. I'm a small company, I can't afford the unicorn. So I either have to go into a rigorous training program, try to partner with the university, or go into the internship, or poach. Curious as far as what are you finding the most success in that next generation?
And can I boil that down to, is there a university out there out front, like it used to be Stanford? Is it still Stanford? Is there other schools really emerging?
I think everybody is looking at Stanford, so I wouldn't look at Stanford. I would encourage looking at Georgia Tech, or I would encourage going to the University of Waterloo in Canada. Like, think beyond your borders. Like, it's really important. There's a lot of really talented individuals out there. So we actually have a hub in Atlanta, and we also have a hub in Toronto. So that's where I'm focusing. So I'm not competing against everybody trying to get that 1 ML graduate from Stanford, right? So, and apprenticeship programs, like bring them in, train them early, give them a 6-month opportunity to show you what they got.
I mean, y'all, I teach at Harvard, and they're amazing, and I love my students, and the talent that we need for our companies go beyond what Stanford and Harvard train in their university classrooms. I think maybe we can have a conversation after about the long list of universities, but there's so many. And I think even thinking beyond, there's the computer science programs, but some of these universities, maybe they don't call them computer science because they've had to call them information systems. And I think I've sat with our talent teams, like, let's break down some of these degree programs and figure out what skills might match, and finding students that way as well.
But I want to be direct. I mean, look, let's put the question in context. A Series A, Series B, Series C company doesn't have the runway to hire university grad. Let's just call a spade a spade. Larger companies, please do, absolutely. A younger company has 18 months of runway. You're either going to get product market fit or you won't survive. So those 50 people that you do have in the company are looking to you to drive that outcome as quickly as possible. And if that means poaching 2 talent from people who know how to do this and get to that outcome, please don't waste time hiring university talent if you can't afford it. I mean, for different companies, different sizes, different outcomes. But I think the flip side to the university question is also immigration. We're all speaking about going beyond our borders. And I feel like, nobody has monopoly to good talent, certainly not United States of America. We have certainly a lot of it, but not all of it. And I do think that in the current geopolitical economic environment that we are, what we shouldn't do is shut the doors to talent from different parts of the world. Some of the brightest people in my company are immigrants. I'm an immigrant, first-generation immigrant into this country. And that's something we should continue to cherish, because if we shut the door on that, we're really going to create a bubble for ourselves.
Yeah, so about half of my engineering talent is not in the United States, actually 51%, so it's more than half of my engineering talent. And we have offices in London and Dublin. We have 2 offices in Bulgaria. And I would say that in an office in Tel Aviv, every one of those offices has brilliant people in it. I maybe get to speak from a point of a publicly traded company, so not a Series A or B or C, so there's a little bit of privilege in this statement, but we get a ton of value out of our internship and I would say our university feeder programs, areas where we get to bring someone into the team, and certainly not 3 years. I think you have to look at like what you're doing there to get them up to speed, to turn that 3 years into 3 months or less even, but I would say some of the best talent that we get is usually through networks and referrals at campus events in the hubs that we have. And in each location, it's been critically important to put forth a locally appropriate and sensitive process. It has not been, in Boston we ran summer internships. That made sense for the universities, for Northeastern and for MIT and all the other universities on the East Coast. The program that we run in Sofia, Bulgaria is dramatically different from that. It goes for 6 months. It's in strong partnership with the department. They're tailoring the degree to that even, and it requires like sweat equity to unlock that. But it's been critically important. What's available in Dublin is yet another thing that we don't have time to get into. But I think this point about talent outside of our borders, you don't even need the immigration. I gladly get on a call super early in the morning to get on the phone with my teams in Tel Aviv or in Sofia, Bulgaria, because they're brilliant enough and they deserve it. So
I have a team in Lisbon, same thing.
Yeah. That was another great question. We have time for one final one here. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Robin Kim. I'm from Neo4j. It's a graph database analytics intelligence platform.
We use your technology. Thank you.
Yes, I know, and Palo Alto, and anyway, but thank you for all of your insights. You've touched on reskilling and upskilling. And in macro, there's so many different ways that your companies and others do that, whether it's controlled experiment or whether it's certifications or mentoring, like all of those. I would love to hear in micro how you got to a point where you identified whether it was your first pain point or your first need in upskilling or reskilling, because how you got to that point, because in some ways that even predates, therefore, what you hire and how you hire. And I loved your comment about taking your employees with you, and that's clearly top of mind for all of you.
As an engineer, data is everything for me. I think nothing beats good, just understanding what percentage of your organization is using AI tooling every day. That's where you start. That's your moment of truth. If you don't have a shared view of reality with the business that this is the number, this is what our current usage is, that's where I began my journey over a year ago. We're like, this is our current adoption. So how do we get, and I have a step-by-step framework. It's like, one thing is evangelism. It's my responsibility to evangelize why this is where the world's heading, right? All the other cross-functional leaders in the business, we have to be on the same page about it. Experimentation, create safe places to experiment so you can fail and celebrate the failures of AI as much as you celebrate the success. Then it's finally enablement, right? Like you can talk all day and say, oh, go use Claude. But if I don't know how to apply Claude to my current Elixir code base, Claude means nothing. So we actually have specialized labs where we coach our team on how to leverage the latest and greatest in tooling. And finally, it's enforcement, you all. I gotta say it, I told all the engineers this year, if you don't have an AI-related goal, you're gonna become obsolete. So in spirit of protecting your career in the greater long run, you have to enforce it. So this is like a step-by-step framework that we've used, but data had to be the starting points, and I measure our organization quarter after quarter to see whether we are getting better or we're getting worse.
I'll share 2 examples that we're doing at Workday, maybe one in teaching. One is more macro for our company, and then, well, they're all micro examples, but one is company-wide and one is product-specific. We have an incredible CIO, Ronnie Johnson, some of you know her. She created this everyday AI program, which many CIOs are trying to figure out how to upskill train. But what's so unique was there were these really short videos that everyone in the company would watch, and I think it did 2 things. It taught you what any number of tools, maybe it's Copilot, Gemini, whatever, it taught you how to use it, but it also made it, oh, my coworker's also using it, it's okay. Because there was that weird phase of like, can I use ChatGPT, can I use this thing? Like, am I just gonna have to use it externally? And you're like, how do I use it? And it really level set, here's how everyone's around you using it, and sometimes they use it, it doesn't work, and it's cool. And so I think making a space for failing. The other part for our product teams is to your point of when you realized, so when you're a really successful 18-year-old company building product a certain way, and now you're like, here is a new kind of technology that shifts how you build things, their product teams are gonna have to change. So I think we have communities of, we actually have a PM help each other Slack channel. It's just like a very micro product community. And then now we're just trying out different ways to teach our product managers how to be different kinds of product leaders, and how to build differently, how to build in like non-deterministic systems, how to do testing, how to do evaluations. It doesn't have to take a ton of time. It can take weeks, but just like like on a very micro level for us with our product managers, rethinking how we do product is like another micro way we're doing it.
Wendy, do you want the last word?
Yeah, I think that was a great question. So I think Palo Alto Networks, our CEO, like the day that ChatGPT was announced to the world, the next day he was like, hey, we're bringing the top 200 leaders in the company. Everyone's going to be in person for this week. And it was like 2 weeks after that. And it was then we brought in, engineers, developers from NVIDIA, from all over different companies to share just what they were building. And then we highlighted some of the tools that we were already using that were leveraging Gen AI. We've obviously been using ML for quite a long time in our product base. But now, to the point of kind of how that's advanced and matured, we talk about Workday. Like in our, when we do our performance reviews and our goals, now there are 2 specific questions that are very different than they were last year, which is like, how are you using AI in your everyday workflow? And then what are the goals that you have related to that for your team? What are the outcomes you're driving towards? And if those aren't strong, like those are being reviewed by HR, by our management, my supervisor. And if they're not strong, then you're definitely being pushed to make them stronger. And people who aren't adapting and adopting definitely are going to have more concern with doing that.
Well, I want to thank everyone, especially our panelists. I personally learned a lot. The room was great. We've got a bunch of other great programming coming up in the main tent, starting at 10 with Flex's CEO. But in the meantime, please give it up for our panelists. That was really good. Great job, guys. That was really good.